The room is smaller than you'd think. Wood-paneled walls that have absorbed years of cigarette smoke and whispered conversations. A leather couch with burns near the armrest, the kind that come from someone setting down a joint without looking. The carpet is worn in the center, where feet have paced back and forth during 1,000 difficult conversations. Late afternoon light slices through the blinds, cutting the air into strips of gold and shadow. Dust particles hang suspended in those beams, barely moving, as if the room itself is holding its breath. 4 men sit across from one another. No one is smiling. Jackson Browne is 23 years old. His hands rest on his knees, fingers interlaced loosely. His hair falls across his forehead, still damp from the drive over through the canyon roads. He hasn't said much since he walked in. A nod when they offered him something to drink. A quiet thank you when he declined. He wasn't expecting this. No one expects a phone call like that. No one expects to be summoned to a living room in Laurel Canyon on a Tuesday afternoon and told they're about to be offered something they never asked for, something that could change everything. Across from him sit Glenn Frey and Don Henley. Both lean forward slightly, elbows on their knees, hands clasped. Their expressions are careful, neutral, but their eyes are sharp, focused, the way eyes get when something important is at stake. They're watching him the way people watch someone they're about to bet everything on. They've thought about this. They've talked about it late into the night, weighing options, considering alternatives. And now they're here, in this moment, ready to make the ask. Behind them, through the window, the canyon rolls downward in layers of eucalyptus and dust and crooked telephone poles. Los Angeles hums in the distance, oblivious to what's happening in this small room. Frey speaks first. His voice is low, steady, deliberate. He doesn't rush. He's thought about how to say this. He talks about the band, about what they're building, about the sound they want, the kind of thing that could last beyond a single hit or a lucky break. He talks about vision, about chemistry, about how rare it is to find someone who understands what a song is supposed to do to a person, not just entertain them, not just fill the silence, but reach inside and touch something real. He talks about the future they see, the albums they want to make, the stages they want to stand on. He doesn't use the word replace, but it hangs in the air anyway, heavy and unavoidable. They're looking for someone. They've been looking, auditioning voices in their heads while they drive, while they eat, while they lie awake at night. And now they're here, in this room, asking Jackson Browne if he wants to be that someone. Henley doesn't speak yet. He just watches. His stillness is louder than Frey's words. He's listening not just to what Browne says, but to what he doesn't say, to the pauses, to the way his breathing changes, to the small shifts in posture that reveal what someone is really thinking. Browne listens. He nods once or twice, but not in agreement. Just acknowledgement. He hears what they're saying. He understands the weight of it. This isn't a jam session invite. This isn't a guest spot on a record. This isn't come play with us sometime and see how it feels. This is an offer to step into the center of something that's about to explode. The Eagles are on the edge of becoming what everyone in this town wants to become. They have the songs, they have the look, they have the machinery behind them, the label support, the producers who know how to turn potential into gold. All they need is the right voice at the front. The voice that will carry those songs into living rooms and car radios and late-night diners across the country. And they think it's his. Browne shifts in his seat. He glances down at his hands. His fingers are long, calloused from guitar strings and piano keys. He's been writing songs since he was a kid, playing coffee houses where 20 people showed up on a good night, passing tapes around to friends who passed them to other friends, building something slow, something his own, something that doesn't have a name yet but feels important. He's not famous yet, but people know his name. Other musicians know his name. Songwriters, session players, the ones who pay attention. That's different. That matters in a different way. Frey keeps talking. He mentions touring, mentions studios in Nashville and Memphis, mentions the kind of exposure that changes a career overnight. He's not selling, he's not pitching, he's stating facts. This is what the offer includes. This is what's on the table. He's respectful, almost cautious, because he knows who Browne is. He knows what Browne is building. He's heard the songs Browne has written for other people. He knows the kind of talent that doesn't come around often, and he knows this might be the only time they get to ask. There's a long pause. Frey leans back against the couch. The leather creaks under his weight. Henley finally speaks. His voice is quieter than Frey's, but it carries more weight. He says something about trust, about how they wouldn't be here if they didn't believe in what Browne could bring, about how this isn't just about filling a spot or finding someone who can hit the notes. It's about finding someone who understands what they're trying to say, someone who can stand in front of a crowd and make people feel something real. He doesn't say the word frontman, but it's implied. He doesn't say lead singer, but everyone in the room knows what this is. Browne looks up. His face is calm. There's no anger in it. No pride, no defensiveness, no fear, just clarity. The kind of clarity that comes when you've already made a decision without realizing it. When your body knows before your mind catches up. He meets Henley's eyes first, then Frey's. He doesn't lean forward. He doesn't cross his arms. He doesn't look away. He just sits there, present, still, grounded. And then he speaks. 7 words. Quiet, measured, not harsh, not apologetic, not dismissive, just true. I don't want to be anyone else. The room goes silent. Not the kind of silence that's uncomfortable, not the kind that demands to be filled, but the kind that settles, the kind that absorbs, the kind that means something has ended and something else has begun. It's not a refusal born of arrogance. It's not a dismissal. It's not even a no, not in the way most people say no. It's something else. It's a boundary. A line drawn not in the sand but in the air, invisible but absolute. He's not rejecting them. He's not rejecting the opportunity. He's not saying they're wrong or that their vision doesn't matter. He's protecting something inside himself that he knows will disappear if he says yes. Something fragile and essential and irreplaceable. Frey doesn't react right away. He just nods, slow, like he's absorbing it, like he's turning it over in his mind. Henley looks down at his hands, not in disappointment, not in frustration, in understanding. Because they're musicians, too. They know what Browne just said. They know what it costs to say it. They know the weight of choosing yourself over the easier path. There's no argument, no counteroffer, no think about it and get back to us. No, you sure you want to walk away from this? Because the answer wasn't about money or fame or timing. It was about identity. And you can't negotiate with that. You can't bargain. You can't compromise. It's the one thing that has to stay whole or it's nothing. Browne doesn't stand up immediately. He stays seated. The tension in the room doesn't break. It softens. It shifts. The question has been answered. The moment is over. But no one rushes to fill the silence. They sit with it. They let it be. Frey eventually leans back and lets out a long breath. He says something about respecting that, about understanding, about how they had to ask, but they get it. Henley agrees. He says something about how the right person will come along, about how they'll figure it out. They're not angry. They're not wounded. They're not offended. They're just 2 men who took a shot and missed, and they know it's not personal. It's something deeper than personal. It's about who you are when no one's watching, about what you're willing to trade and what you're not. Browne stands. He shakes their hands. There's no stiffness in it, no formality, no awkwardness, just acknowledgement, respect. A recognition that they're all trying to do the same thing in different ways, trying to make something that lasts, trying to matter. They walk him to the door. The light outside is softer now, turning orange as the sun dips lower behind the ridge. He steps out into it, and the door closes behind him. He doesn't look back. He doesn't need to. Inside, Frey and Henley sit in silence for a while. They don't talk about what just happened. Not yet. They'll move forward. They'll keep looking. They'll find someone else. They'll become the Eagles, everyone knows. The ones who sell millions of records, who fill stadiums, who write songs that define a generation. But in this moment they sit with the weight of what was just said. Because it wasn't a rejection of them. It was an affirmation of something they both understand, something they fight to protect in themselves, too. The right to be who you are, even when the world is offering you something bigger. Browne walks to his car, a beat-up sedan with rust around the wheel wells and a crack in the windshield. He doesn't feel relief. He doesn't feel regret. He feels steady, grounded. He knows what he just turned down. He knows what it could have been. The tours, the money, the fame. The feeling of standing in front of thousands of people who know every word you sing. But he also knows what it would have cost. And that cost wasn't measured in dollars or years. It was measured in voice, in vision, in the quiet, stubborn belief that the songs he's writing, the songs only he can write, matter more than the spotlight someone else is offering. He drives down the canyon road. The windows are open. The air smells like sage and gasoline and eucalyptus. The radio is off. He doesn't need sound right now. He needs the silence. He needs to sit with the choice he just made and let it settle into his bones. Let it become part of him. Let it root. Because this is the moment. This is the crossroads. And he chose the road that no one else can walk for him. The months that follow are not easy. The Eagles release their first album. It takes off. Not slowly, not gradually. It explodes. They tour. They appear on television. They become the thing Frey said they would become. People talk about them everywhere. Their songs are on every radio station, in every bar, coming out of every car window at stoplights. Their faces are in every magazine. Browne watches it happen. He doesn't avoid it. He doesn't pretend it's not real. He doesn't tell himself it doesn't matter. He sees it. He feels the weight of what he turned down. There are nights when he wonders. Late nights in small studios when the song isn't coming together, when the words feel clumsy, when he's tired and alone and the doubt creeps in. He wonders if he made a mistake, if he let fear disguise itself as principle, if he chose the harder road not because it was right, but because he was scared of the easier one. But he keeps writing. He works alone most of the time. Small studios, late nights, borrowed equipment. He plays his songs for friends first, not executives, not producers, not people who want to shape them into something else. He builds them slowly, carefully, like someone carving something out of wood with a dull knife. He doesn't rush. He doesn't chase. He doesn't try to sound like anyone else. Not the Eagles, not Dylan, not anyone. He sounds like himself. And that's terrifying because he doesn't know yet if that's enough. And then his own album comes out. It's quieter than the Eagles, softer, more personal. The production is sparse. The arrangements are simple. It doesn't explode. It doesn't dominate the charts. It doesn't get played at parties or on jukeboxes. But it moves. It finds people. It finds the ones who need it. The ones who listen late at night with the lights off, the ones who hear themselves and the chords and the pauses and the way his voice breaks just slightly on certain words. The ones who feel like someone finally said the thing they couldn't say themselves. He doesn't become the Eagles, he becomes Jackson Browne. And that's not a consolation prize. That's not second place. That's the point. Years later, people will ask him about that meeting, about what it felt like to be offered something so big and to walk away. Interviewers will lean in, waiting for drama, for regret, for the moment when he admits he wonders what if. He'll answer the same way every time, calmly, without drama, without bitterness. He'll say he didn't walk away from the Eagles, he walked toward himself. And that's not the same thing, because the world is full of people who say yes when they mean no, full of people who take the deal because it's easier than explaining why they won't. Full of people who become what others need them to be because it's faster, louder, safer. Full of people who look up one day and realize they're living someone else's life, singing someone else's songs, standing in someone else's light. And by then it's too late to go back. But speed doesn't make you real. Noise doesn't make you whole. Safety doesn't make you you. Browne understood that in a way most people never do. He understood it at 23, sitting in a room with two of the most ambitious musicians of his generation, when the easiest thing in the world would have been to say yes, to nod, to smile, to ride the wave, to let someone else's vision become his reality, to trade his voice for their spotlight. But he didn't. He chose the harder thing, the quieter thing, the thing that required him to believe in something no one else could see yet. He chose to be the writer of his own songs, not the singer of someone else's. And that choice didn't make him a hero. It didn't make him noble. It didn't make him better than the people who said yes. It just made him honest. It made him whole. It made him an artist. The Eagles went on to become legends. Browne did too. But their legends are different. One is built on anthems, on stadiums, on collective energy, on songs that everyone knows. The other is built on intimacy, on late nights, on songs that feel like conversations, like confessions, like someone whispering a secret in your ear. Neither is better. Neither is worse. They're just different paths, different truths, different ways of mattering. And the truth Browne chose is the one that only he could live. The meeting in Laurel Canyon lasted maybe 30 minutes. 30 minutes that people will talk about for decades. 30 minutes that become a story, a legend, a parable about integrity and identity and the cost of staying true. But the decision made in that room echoes across decades. It echoes in every song he's written since, in every album, in every quiet moment when someone listens to his music and feels understood. It echoes in the space between what he could have been and what he became. Because what he became was whole, not famous for someone else's reasons, not successful by someone else's standards, but whole, authentic, his. The world doesn't always reward that. The world doesn't always understand it. The world wants easy categories, stars and nobodies, winners and losers, people who made it and people who didn't. But the people who need what Browne offers, they find it. They hold on to it. They carry it with them through breakups and late nights and long drives and moments when they need to hear someone say the things they can't say themselves. And maybe that's the real success. Not the size of the crowd, not the volume of the applause, not the number of records sold or tickets scanned or magazine covers printed, but the depth of the connection, the honesty of the exchange. The willingness to stand in a room full of pressure and possibility and say, quietly, without malice, without fear, without apology, I don't want to be anyone else. Because in the end, that's the only thing any of us really have. The chance to be ourselves, fully, completely, without compromise, without conditions. And most people never take it. They get close. They think about it. They want to. But when the moment comes, when the offer is made, when the door is open, when the easier path is right there in front of them, glowing and obvious and seductive, they take it. They tell themselves it's smart, strategic, practical, and maybe it is. But it's also a trade, a piece of yourself for a piece of the world. And you never get that piece back. Browne didn't make that trade. And that 7-word sentence, calm, clear, final, became the foundation of everything that followed. Not because it was clever, not because it was bold or dramatic or headline-worthy, but because it was true, because it came from the deepest part of him, the part that knew what mattered and what didn't. He didn't want to be anyone else. He wanted to be Jackson Browne, and he was willing to pay the price for that, the uncertainty, the slower climb, the smaller crowds, the risk that it might not work, the possibility that he'd be forgotten while others became legends, the chance that 10 years later he'd be playing the same small rooms, wondering if he'd made a terrible mistake. He was willing to sit with all of that, to hold it, to let it shape him, to let it test him, because the alternative, becoming someone else's version of success, wasn't a compromise. It wasn't a shortcut. It was a betrayal, a quiet, slow erasure of the thing that made him matter in the first place. So he said no, and the world kept turning. The Eagles became the Eagles. Jackson Browne became Jackson Browne. And somewhere in the space between those two paths, a truth was born. A truth that doesn't make headlines. A truth that doesn't trend. A truth that doesn't get talked about at parties or written about in business books. But a truth that lasts. You are not what others need you to be. You are what you choose to become. And that choice, the quiet, difficult, unglamorous choice to stay true to yourself, is the only one that matters, the only one that echoes, the only one that leaves something real behind. Browne sits at a piano now, decades later. His hands move across the keys. The room is dim. The world outside is loud, fast, demanding, full of voices telling people who to be and what to want and how to live. But in here, it's quiet. It's his. The songs still come, slower now, deeper, but they come, and they still sound like him, like no one else, and that's enough. It always was.